Welcome to episode 63 of Życie, Bez Gruchy. Folks, in today's episode, we've got a special treat for you because he literally changed my life soon after I left the orphanage and went out into the real world. His name is John Valle, and he specializes in sales, influence, manufacturing performance, team building, management, and leadership. He's been training people at Fortune 100 companies and Persuasion Engineering workshops around the world, alongside Richard Bandler for over 35 years now. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Marcin. Good to be here. Thank you.
Listen, I couldn't thank you more than I did before we actually started recording, because 5 years ago, I attended your seminar, and that was in London, soon after I left the orphanage. And I want to be the real testimony to what you're doing and what you're teaching, because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the mental, mental confidence, basically. That's what it takes, the structure, and then, the belief to go out and then start selling to people, start showing my product, even recording myself, or even inviting people like you on such a podcast. So that was a process after I left the seminar back in London. So thank you for that. But I want to ask you the first question from Robert. How specifically would you define what's NLP and what are its main benefits in life and in sales?
Okay, hey, that is a great question. I'm going to explain a little bit about NLP. So that people understand what it is. First of all, I'm going to tell you what it's not. It's not a panacea. In other words, it doesn't solve every problem there is. It could, but it's really about how the brain works and language. When I say that, I mean both verbal and nonverbal language. Not just what you say, how you say it, but also body language, what you do with your body, what you do with your voice, not just the words, but the tone of your voice, everything. So let me explain NLP like this so that people understand. There are two basic parts to NLP. All right. One, there are the basic skills. We'd like to teach the basic skills first. The second part are what I'm going to call, let's say, techniques. Okay. And the techniques, they're a combination of the skills. Let me tell you why I talk about this. If I were going to teach you, you came to my chocolate cake seminar, and I were to teach you to make a chocolate cake, you would make the best chocolate cake. But if someone came to you and said, "Oh, can you make me an angel food cake?" you wouldn't know what to do, because you only came to my chocolate cake seminar. Now, if I teach you about baking, I teach you about ingredients, I teach you about water, I teach you about baking, basically. You have temperature, humidity, timing, things like that, even elevation. Most people don't know that if you bake at different elevations in the world, it's got to be a little bit different. So if I taught you all about those things and ingredients, then taught you how to bake a chocolate cake, you'd still make a great chocolate cake. And if someone came to you and asked you to make an angel food cake, you'd be able to make an angel food cake, because I taught you how to bake. I didn't just teach you how to make one cake. The problem with NLP is that it's very simple and easy to learn. The easiest part is if someone just teaches a technique, because the techniques, and I tell people this, the techniques will always work until the first time it doesn't work. And then what? Now you don't know what to do, because you don't have all of the skills. But if you have all of the skills and all of a sudden you use one technique and it didn't work for some reason, then you know what to do next. You can start playing around and trying different skills that you have. Now, some people would say, well, why don't all the techniques work all the time? Well, if they did work all the time, I would put them in a little pill and I would sell it to you. But because all of us humans are different, we're subjectively very different. And that's the whole point about it. Weird part is our brains work the same pretty much. From a hardware standpoint, unless you got some kind of neurological problem thing going on, whatever, you got hit in the head with a baseball bat when you were a kid or something. And even that's fixable. But all our brains operate the same. It's like a hard drive thing, you know? They all operate the same way, depending on what operating system you put in, then what software you put in. So the essence about NLP that's important is to learn the skills. Now, I'm going to go on and say NLP is about how the brain works and with language, both verbal and nonverbal language. And if you can tune your own brain up, because, I mean, you said, hey, you know, I helped you change a lot of things. Well, you actually had all of those abilities inside your brain. You didn't know how to unlock them back then. Okay. You didn't know how to get to all those abilities. You know, I didn't teach you to be more confident. I didn't teach you to do all of these things. You had that inside your brain. You couldn't get to it at that time. Once we unlocked all of those doors, now look at you. Now you're out there, I would say, kicking ass and taking names, as I would say, you know, and that's great. That's really great. So human beings have a lot of unlimited potential. Let's say that. And it's really highly dependent upon, number one, what's the environment they're living in? Because a lot of people are like, let's say they're slaves to their environment. You know, in other words, if they're living in the same town all their lives, and I have friends I went to school with from grammar school all the way up into high school, and they still live in the same place. They haven't traveled around the world. You know, they haven't even probably not gone. Maybe they went to New York. I'm in New Jersey. Maybe they went to New York, you know. They probably never went to Las Vegas, but maybe they went to Atlantic City, but they're still in New Jersey. So they're still in the same environment. Great people. Don't get me wrong. They're great people, but I don't see where they've really expanded themselves much beyond where they've been for the longest time. You know, they haven't experienced other cultures, you know, all these kind of things. So it's really another part of it is how much do you allow to get into your brain? So that's what NLP is. And again, it's not a panacea. You know, it's not like, I'm in nirvana now. Oh, everything's going to be great. You know, you can't always control what's out in your outside environment. What you can do is you can learn how to control yourself in different environments. And that's where part of the magic really is. You don't have to put up with a bunch of crap out there, even though it's happening. You can't control it all. You can only control you. You can control your brain and how you respond.
Exactly. And then that's what happened after the seminar with Richard and yourself back in London. So somehow you guys help people like realize, okay, you know, you can actually unlock all of that, all of the resources that are in there. And so, again, thank you for that. And then that leads me to the next question. And the way, we've asked people on our social media. I've asked my business partners, to use the time that we have here. So, so it can be a fresh material. So people have never heard, maybe, etc. On the seminars and online. And so, but the next question is very important. Like, how did you get started with NLP and why?
Okay. I was a trainer in a company. Before that, first of all, I had a lot of different experience in companies. I worked in just about every function you can come up with in a company, except for accounting and finance. I worked in manufacturing. I worked in sales. I worked in marketing. I worked in human resources. There was one job I had. I managed probably about 70 or 75 people. And they were mechanics. They were guys who fixed equipment and machines in manufacturing plants. So I did a lot of that. And I was in human resources. I was a trainer in a company. Now, when I was a kid, like most people, I had an interest in psychology and what makes people do what they do and all these things. But I really wasn't all that impressed with what I was finding. I didn't find solutions. I found a lot of opinions. I found a lot of ideas. But I didn't find any solutions for something. People would explain something about, well, this is why this person has this problem. I'm going, I don't really care. How do you fix it? And not because I had anything wrong with me. I just had this interest. So, and also when I was young, I had a very strong interest in language. I loved, and I don't even know if they do this in your home country, or they don't even do it in the schools in the US that I know of anymore, maybe for 5 minutes. But I liked actually diagramming sentences. That's where you take the sentences apart in a class, an English class, and you plot it out. You got the subject, you got the verb, you got the object, and you got the adverb, adjectives, prepositional phrase, but you draw it out. I love that stuff. Don't ask
Did you
me
have
why.
any?
I love
Did you? Okay, so you don't have any specific like why? You just like playing around with.
I like
words.
doing it. I mean, I had it as a subject probably from third grade, maybe, and I really liked it. I said, wow, this is cool. I liked it. And then on the other hand, I knew intuitively, because I had a couple of good uncles, like if I did something wrong and, whatever, they would take me on the side and go, they'd have a little chat with me and I would change my mind. It would make sense. And I go, huh. So my father was a really good guy, but he wasn't very philosophical. He just said, don't do that. Don't do that stupid shit. He didn't say, think about this, think about that. He didn't do all of that, But I had a couple of uncles who would sit with me and they talked to me. And when they talked to me, I go, you know what? That makes sense. So I knew somehow intuitively, I knew that you could talk to people and convince them of things or persuade them or convince, get some sense into their heads. I had no idea how to do this. Okay. And the funny part was when I first went to college, believe it or not, I wanted to be an English teacher. And then I stopped. Like after I went for the first year of college, I said, no, I'm not going to be an English teacher. To hell with this. I'm going into business instead. Now look what I do. Now I teach English. So I'm right back. I'm right back where I started from, but in a different way. So I really enjoyed all of those things. I didn't pay too much attention, to the details of those things, but I kind of liked it. It was like a hobby. So now I'm in a company. I'm in human resources. I'm a trainer with a company. And when you're a trainer in a company here, you join the American Society of Training and Development. Then you start getting all the junk mail coming in, all these things. And while I was in the company, I should tell you, when I was in the human resources at first, because I used to be trained. I used to train people in that company, but I was training them in how to run machines before I got into human resources. So I knew how to train people to run machines. But now I wanted to get doing the brain training stuff, the management, that we call it the soft skills. So I got into human resources, and the first thing my new boss said to me was, because he didn't actually hire me into the job, I have to tell you, the president of the company liked me. And I was on a project actually in Chicago, and I was going to leave after the project was finished. And he said to me, how are things going? I said, doing good. Thank you so much. He said, but listen, Mike, I got to tell you, when I'm finished with this project, I'm probably going to leave the company. I'm going to start looking around anyway. He said, why? What did we do? I said, no, everything's cool. You guys are great. I like working for the company. I'm getting bored. I got to do something different or I'm going to get in trouble. I'm one of those people. I had to do something different every couple of years. I had to get into something different. So he said, well, like what? I said, well, I want to do management training, leadership, things like that. And he told me, he said, well, the human resources director, he's looking for a training guy. He says, I'm going to go tell him that he should hire you. And I thought that's not going to work real good because he's already interviewing professional guys, So he did. He went to the director and said, I have your training guy for you. We don't have to pay any headhunting fees. We're going to hire from within. This is good. It'll be a good message to the rest of the employee. The president, by the way, when he was the president of the company, he was 37. Okay. Wow. This guy was brilliant. He really was. He was a good guy. People loved working for him. He was 37 and he graduated from Yale. So he went and told the human resources director, he said, I have your training guy. And he said, well, I'm hiring people, I'm interviewing. And he said, we don't have to spend that money. And it's good we hire from within, gives a good message to the other employees. People can move up in the company. It's John Lavelle. Mm-hmm. And the first thing the director said was, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Not John. I love John. He's a great guy. He does a great job. He says, he says shit and he says, fuck. We can't have that in the corporate world. And not only that, he's got long hair because I had hair down on my back and went down my back. And he said he's got that long hair, and he wears some nice suits, but he wears sneakers with those suits. I think he does it to piss some people off. And he said John is a good guy, like him. He's like a diamond in the rough, is what he said to the president. President said that's good to know because you, Mr. Director, you're my developer of people. So I'm going to give you a chance now to see what you can do with a diamond in the rough. John is yours. Let's see what you can do with him. And so I ended up in human resources. That was created a little bit of a problem, of course, for the people in human resources because I came from basically the street as far as they were concerned, Yeah. But I got along with everybody in the union, the Teamsters, all those people. So anyway, so brochures are coming past my desk because I'm looking at join the American Society of Training and Development. And all these brochures. Oh, and my boss told me, you're not doing any training here for 2 years. I said, what? He said, not doing any training for 2 years. I said, why not? I said, I've been training for a bunch of years already in manufacturing and everything. He said, I know, but that's different than what you want. I'm not letting you get into my managers' heads until you know what you're doing, because I don't need you messing their heads up. And I thought, they're already messed up. But I didn't say that to him. So I said, what do I do for the 2 years? He said, you can go any place you want. I'll pay for everything. Go to training. Go to any training you want to go to. I'll take care of it. And I said, wow, cool. So I went to some really good trainings. I went to Blessing White. I went to Kepner Trigo problem solving. This is all in the 80s and stuff. You know, these were top-notch companies, IBM, everything. I didn't learn a lot. I learned a few things here and there, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. And then a brochure came past my desk, and it said Neuro-linguistic programming. And the first thing I thought was, that's a mouthful. And it said, you know, language and behavior, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, it was a one-day taster. I said, I'm going to this one-day taster. And I went. I said, I'll tell you what, the first 20 minutes, I thought, holy crap, this is it, man. This stuff works. Because the lady wasn't even hardly doing techniques, but I could tell by the language they were using. The first trainer I saw, I said, wow. And she brought a guy up in front of the room, by the way, who was afraid of being in front of a group of people. Okay. She brought the guy up with his eyes closed. And in 10 minutes, this guy was happy, smiling, eyes open, saying hi to this whole class of about 150 people. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool, man. I'm going to do this. So I go back to see my boss and I said, I'm going to sign up for this NLP stuff, this practitioner thing. I'm going to go for this practitioner. He said, I'm not paying for that. I said, what? He said, I'm not paying for that. Why not? He said, because I know all about NLP. You mean, I said, you studied it? No. I heard about it. I thought, rumors, here we go. I said, what is it? What don't you like about it? He said, well, it's very, very manipulative. And I said, actually, it's about language. So if you're going to use your language more exquisitely, more explicitly, more elegantly, how's that manipulative? He said, well, I heard it's very manipulative. And I said, he said, and we don't manipulate people here. I said, I see. But we don't manipulate people here. Okay. But we manage them, right? That's called managing them. And you know, it's funny, Bill, they both start with an M. And I said, so I'm going whether you pay for it or not. You don't have to pay for it. I'll just go to the seminar myself. And he said, go ahead. And I said to him, not only am I going, you're coming with me. And he said, why? Why would I do that? And I said, because when I come back from this training, it's only this was a weekend program. You went on Saturdays and Sundays for like 10 weekends or something. I said, because when I come back on Mondays, you're going to say, what did I learn? You're going to ask me. Now, I like you, so I'm probably going to tell you a few things, but you know I'm not going to tell you everything. So you might as well come to the seminar with me. He called me a son of a bitch, and he said, okay, and he went to the seminar with me. And he learned a lot. He said, wow, this is really good stuff. I said, yeah, you know, whatever's going on out there, whatever people think about it, unless they've experienced any part of it, they really don't understand it. So that's how I got into NLP anyway. I ran into Richard early on. I was actually in my practitioner program. I ran into Richard. And I was going to see Richard at a program in New Jersey, 3-day program. It wasn't sales or anything. It was like, come and tell me what you want. And I'm going to go, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and you're done. And then I'll teach you guys something. It was only 25 people. He limited it to 25 people. So I went. People were telling me I was crazy. They said, you're going to see that nut? He's crazy, you know. I said, what do you mean he's crazy? They said, if you don't do what he tells you to do, he'll hit you in the head with a chair. I said, well, he better be really good and he better be fast because I'll hit him back with a chair. And they said, yeah, sure. So Richard, he pushed everybody to the limits. I didn't hit anybody with a chair, and we hit it off pretty quick. And I didn't realize this until then, but he's also from New Jersey. He was born in New Jersey. So we kind of had sort of like the same kind of attitude, even though he moved to California ultimately, things like that. And we hit it all pretty good. So I'd been to a bunch of other seminars with him. I went to seminars with a lot of people, by the way. I didn't just study with Richard. I went to a lot of different trainers, NLP trainers. I wanted to find out the different styles. I wanted to find out what was different. How were they training things differently? You know, what was so different? And I learned a few things from other people. But I ended up staying with Richard mostly because he just taught us how to take things so easy. You know, it's just so easy. He doesn't do the techniques as much as he can just, you know, have a conversation with you and you're going to change. And to me, that's the fascinating part. So I go back to what I said. The first thing was, you know, most people have to learn to make the distinction between what are the skills and what are the techniques. because the techniques are you do this first, then this, then this, then this, and this. But that's one thing. Those are recipes. But sometimes you got to change the recipe, man. Just like when you're cooking. That's how and why I get into it. I really wanted to learn how to manage people better myself. And I was a trainer in the company, and I was going to be doing team building in the company. I was going to help run meetings in the company. I was the training guy. And the training guy, when you're in training in a company, you're the training manager. You have to be especially careful about certain things. It's like my boss told me at first. And I guess if you don't wrap your head around your life anyway, it's kind of hard or difficult to come up with these things on your own. So I was very fortunate in that I had probably, I'm going to say, 5 managers that I worked for that I really, really liked. And they taught me a lot. And every single one of them was a real pain in the ass. They weren't easy on me. They weren't like they went, oh, John, that was nice. Oh, no. Laval, get in here. Go to the blackboard. You really screwed this up, okay? Now draw out what you did. Let's take a look at that because you need to fix your strategy. You really messed this up. And you're going to learn from this, or you're not leaving my office. So they were all good. They were all about, I'd say about maybe 4 or 5 of those.
Right.
So I learned how to, because one of the things he told me, he said, you're going to be the training guy here. He said, you gotta, you can't do such an excellent job all the time. I said, what? I'm used to doing an excellent job. And I said, how do you explain that? I mean, how do I reconcile this in my head here? You're telling me not to be so good. I mean, not to be excellent, basically. And he said, well, you're going to have to find out where that line is for you. But if you go over that line, I'm going to tell you right now, you can't be a prophet in your own land. So you're going to have to leave the company, and because people they'll stop trusting you basically because you'll know too much about them. And I went, wow,
right.
Wow. I mean, I never thought about that. Okay. So that's just something else. All these different things that I had to learn about, and I learned a lot. It was really great. So, and it's a good thing he came and learned NLP with me too, because he could explain it to me a little bit differently than he might have used to explain it to me, so that it made more sense to me. This was the HR director guy. We got to be really, really, really good friends. The first guy, he didn't want to hire me at first.
Right. So you guys were basically in the same team, HR department, and then you were in that company, or you decided to start training with Richard. How was that transition?
I did them at the same time because I did them at the same time because most of the times when I went on with Richard, it was weekends or I was using my vacation. I'd go to California. I'd go in and assist with him and things like that. So that worked out pretty well. At the same time, my wife and I, once we were trainers, we also started doing some trainings in New Jersey, and we bring Richard in sometimes and things like that. So, but I was still working at the company at the same time. I was doing both things. They knew about it. The company knew about it.
What about Kathleen? What was she doing? Because no one asked about Kathleen. I was listening to your podcast, and then what was she doing at that time?
Well, she worked in a company. She worked in the company too. And she was in research and development, and she was a food scientist actually, and she would create new products basically. You're in the U.S. now, so I could tell you who the company was. Doesn't matter to me anymore. The base company was Thomas English Muffins.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and they had a lot of other products too. So she created a couple of new English muffins that they're still doing. She created all the new formulas and stuff, and also a few other new products that she came up with. But when I went to my first seminar, after the first weekend, I came back and I was like, "Oh, honey, let's practice a little bit." I learned a couple of things, and she said, "Listen, when I was going first to the NLP, she said, oh, that'll be good for you." She said, "I found myself years ago, so now it's okay. You're going to go find yourself now." And I thought, I'm not going to find myself. I'm going out to learn some really cool shit. But I didn't say that. I said, "Okay." So I came home after the first weekend and I said, "Honey, this is great. Let me practice a couple of things with you." And she said, right. "Well, I've already tried some of these things." Now, she had been to a different kind of seminar years before that. I don't want to mention the name of it, but they were crazy, literally crazy people. She figured that out after a while and then just stopped going. But I said, "Well, this might be different." She goes, "Okay, go ahead." And I did this one little technique with her, whatever I did. And she was like, "Wow, that's different than what I learned." Huh. And she went and signed up and joined the seminar.
And that's how it started, right? So you guys started.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Together, basically.
Training. Oh, yeah. She's really great. I got to tell you. I mean, you've seen her train. She's really great.
Oh, yes. I have, yes.
Yeah, I know.
I met both of you, so I'm like, I mean, you guys helped me kind of unlock what was there and helped me kind of go after. So that's life changing. 7 days that we spent in London. I remember to this day. So the concern that I have, concern is not really a concern because it doesn't bother me, but it kind of, it sticks to my subconscious and it's with me because I hear those opinions,
Sure.
When I, for example, talk to my business partners or people that are close to me, really, we're making money together. And then they've heard about NLP, of course, which is another great thing that you guys have done, propagating and sort of distributing NLP. I think most of the people in the self-help or trainers, speakers, etc., they know NLP, which is fantastic. And when I ask those people, some of them obviously, they tell me, oh, NLP, we've heard about it. It makes people sound and behave like robots because you use those techniques, and then I hear that some gurus as well on the internet, they say, oh, it's a trickery. But in fact, when I listen to those people, I think they were like learning how to do marketing and sales because through NLP, because I hear so many patterns. They say, for example, oh, go back to your childhood, and they show, when you were a kid, who did you want to be when they do their marketing, for example, or when they, and I'm like, dude, this is actually recession. Like in NLP, that's what I learned with the timelines, what you guys taught us. So I'm like, okay, when they're using this stuff, I was starting taking notes. So I remember I went to some of the seminars where they actually said that NLP is don't use it, So basically they want to maybe create their own niche or whatever, because they know that people are aware of NLP. So the question is basically, what do I make of those opinions and how do we explain, to people? How do I explain? Because I tell them on my own example, like, you don't need to, do the NLP, you don't need to learn it. You can think whatever you want to think. But what I've learned through NLP and then the skill that I've never learned in school, I've never learned anywhere.
Yep.
So it helped me digest and see the world differently. And then, but how do you respond to that as a trainer and somebody who's been, in the training and creating all of that for the past 35 years?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I would be very careful of people who say, don't go bother to go and learn NLP. That tells me they don't want you to be smarter than them. That's first thing. Again, NLP is about how the brain works. Why would you not want to learn how the brain works with language? And why would anybody ask you to stop and not do that? And the other thing is, if they're using a technique, they don't understand NLP because they're not using the language itself. If they're saying, well, go back, think about when you were a child, kid, that's a technique. You can't put that into your marketing. That sounds crazy. It's about making sure you use good proactive language, proactive verbs, things like this. You got to do the move away from and the towards thing. You got to know how to drop that strategy in there. All these things. They don't know how to do that. This is why they're teaching technique, or they're using technique. And the people who say, I've heard about NLP, tells me something extremely important. They have not experienced NLP. The other problem is it's been messed up by a lot of different people because it's misrepresented by a lot of people. NLP is a set of tools. It's a set of skills. So I could teach you how to drive a car, and you could use that car to run people over, or you can use that car to take people to visit their friends. What are you going to do with your set of tools? It's like anything else. I teach you to use a hammer. You can use a hammer to build a house. You can use a hammer to hit somebody in the head. So it's highly misrepresented, really, really, really highly misrepresented. And I would say probably by about 80% of the people, because it's been diluted. Richard's been doing this for almost 50 years now. 50 years, pretty much.
Wow.
He started this when he was 20. Now he's 70. So, and then other people go out, they think they know everything, they start their own thing, and it gets diluted. It's just that simple. So, and that's a problem. So my answer is that if I get in a situation to deal with some people and they go, well, I've heard bad things about it. I go, then you've heard things about, I've heard bad things about restaurants too, but I still go to the restaurant, and and by the way, I've even had people say, well, I had a bad experience of it. And I say, well, I had a bad experience in a restaurant once too, but I still go to the restaurants. I didn't stop going to restaurants. I've had bad experiences with girlfriends, for Christ's sake. And now I'm married. Come on. You just because you had one experience that didn't work out for you doesn't mean that all the experiences you could possibly have are no good. But that's another process people do in their brain. They overgeneralize. So it tells me they did not have an experience of NLP. So I give them an experience for it. I ask them a couple of questions real simply. And, I'll just, about submodality. So I'll have them think about something. I'll say, think about something that you like to do, whatever. Maybe you don't like to do it. I don't know. But give me something you like to do. And I'll ask them a bunch of questions because, and I'll explain it real quick for your audience. We use our 5 senses. Anybody out there wants to tell me about the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th sense, you go right ahead. But you still have to describe it in any of the 5 because that's how your brain works. We see, hear, feel, smell, taste. There's no big secret about that. However, the words we use tell people can describe what processes you're using at the time. So if I said to you, oh, we both went to the same concert, right? So we both go to the same concert. And someone could say to you, how was the concert? You go, oh, man, the light show was great. You had to see the costumes. And I go, wow, the sound was fantastic. Man, the music was great. Oh, those are 2 different modalities. One is you're saying visual things. You're saying, I like the light show. I like the costumes. I like the background. I like the lighting, all that. And I'm going, I like the sound. I like the music. So we're talking about 2 different modalities. And I might even say something like for kinesthetics, like feelings. I might go, oh, man, it was great. I felt so good being there, And I had chills up my spine while I was listening to this band, And I'm going to use kinesthetics feeling with a little sound that goes with it, whatever. But most people don't pay attention to that. They don't pay attention to that at all. So, but that's another miscommunication that people do regularly. So they might say, I heard about NLP. That's what my boss did, remember? He said, I heard about NLP. Now, he, by the way, let me tell you, that guy, he was a great guy, okay? He was highly auditory. Okay, in other words, he liked to talk about things. I went into him one time and I said to him, budget's coming up, budget time. He says, yeah. He said, tell me what you want in your budget. I said, okay. I went back to my office. I wrote everything down, drew graphs, all this stuff. I gave him the papers and I said, here. He said, what's that? I said, well, that's what I want in my budget. You said for me to let you know, which is not what he said. He said, tell me, but I put it in visual form and I said, here. And he said, I put it over there on a pile of papers. I went in a couple of days later and I said, did you get to go look at my budget yet? Go look at my budget. And he said, no, tell me again. Tell me what you want. And I went back to my office, wrote everything down again. I brought it. I brought it in. I said, okay, here. I gave him something visual. And he said, I put it on the pile over there. I went in again a couple of days later. And I said, did you get a chance to look at my budget? And he said, no, I really haven't. He said, just tell me what you want. And I said, fine, here. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that. He goes, okay, great, thanks. We're done. And he said, okay, I'll give that to you. We were finished. Because in the early days, I missed it. I missed that he was more auditory. And he also made pictures in his head. He was also visual, but he was more auditory, and I was more visual at that time. And I had to learn how to mix my own up so I could do all of the modalities. People don't get that. And then there's this other thing. So if we picked one modality, like let's say visual, for example, and I asked any of your business partners, okay, because it's in their language anyway. People don't realize that they're giving it away. And I say, think about something that you don't approve of. And they go, okay, I don't want to know what it is. You don't even have to tell me. I just want you to think about it. And I go, oh, okay. And I go, what don't you like about that? They might say, well, I take a dim view about something like that, And I go, there's visual right there. And that tells me that the brightness is down. It's dim. They're telling me this. This. I don't even have to ask too many questions.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I can say, well, what if I could tell you something that would brighten that up for you? All of a sudden, it's going to brighten up a little bit in their head because I told them to do that. Their brain is going to want to do this. And they go, oh, yeah. I go, what if you looked around the other side and looked at it from a different perspective? And they might do that in their head because they went, oh, gee, I hadn't thought about that. Gee, a lot of people are always telling me I should take a different point of view. They're giving it away. It's not even like I have to ask for all the information. I had a guy in a seminar one time, and he was a client of a friend of mine, and my friend brought him to the seminar. was a businessy kind of seminar. It was only 2 or 3 day seminar. This guy was brilliant, but he never put his good ideas into practice. Let's say that. All right. And I said to him, he said, "What if you can help me out?" I said, "What is it?" He goes, I come up with all these good ideas. I said, "Really?" I said, "How many?" He said, "I don't know," which meant he couldn't see them. Okay. He said, "But there's a lot." How do you know there's a lot? "I don't know. People tell me I keep coming up with all these ideas." I said, "So you come up with an idea." He says, "Then what happens?" He said, "I come up with this idea, and then all of a sudden the light goes off." And I looked at him, because a lot of people use that terminology. They go, "Light went off." I go, "Light went off? What if it went on?" And all of a sudden the guy goes like this. He goes, "Holy shit. It's right there. Oh my God, I can see it." Because he was giving himself the instructions to turn the light off on the idea. That doesn't happen with everybody, but I figured, hey, let me test it out and see what happens. We laughed about that for years. For years. They haven't had an experience of what it is and what it can do. So I want them to have an experience of it. Sometimes they'll say, "Well, I don't really believe in NLP. I mean, I've heard a lot about it, but I hear it's da-da-da-da-da." And I go, "Oh, but you've never had a real experience of it." And they say, "No, I haven't." I go, "Well, if you could experience it, what's something you might want to, experience about it?" And of course, they're going to say, "Well, I don't know." And I'm going to say, and you'll hear the voice tone change. You'll hear the whole thing. And I say, "Well, just think of one thing. Think about something that if it was better in your life, you'd be great. You'd be going, wow, this made my day." And they tell me, and I'd ask them a couple of questions. I'd watch what their eyes are doing. I'd watch all of this stuff, all the things you learned, and I'd give them experience for it. I go, what if you move that picture from over here to over there? And I go, "Whoa, wow, that's real. Wow." I said, does that feel better? They go, "Yeah." I go, "You've just been NLP'd. Now, is that such a bad thing? You want more? You want to learn? We want to have more experiences like that, or that one wasn't good enough for you?" It's the craziest thing, but they just haven't had experiences. And it's that simple. Most people they want to go to the technique, and they miss the skill part. I tell people about auditories too, anchors, anchors. So people go, "Well, I heard this anchoring thing is really manipulative. Like you could pick up girls and everything else like that." I go, "Well, listen, if you want to do that, it's a lot of work, but, are you married?" And they go, "Well, yeah." And I go, "Okay. So does your wife use auditory anchors with you?" They go, "No, I don't think so. She doesn't know anything about NLP." I said, "Okay, so you come home from work late one time. You come in, you're supposed to be home by 6. You come home at 10 o'clock and your wife says, 'Where you been?' And you say, 'Well, I was at the office working.' And she goes, 'Mm-hmm.' You go, you know what that means when you hear your wife say, 'Mm-hmm'?" They go, "That means I'm in trouble, doesn't it?" I go, "Yeah, it also means later in the night, you ain't getting nothing." So she's using anchoring with you, but she doesn't know because she hasn't been to an NLP class. But she's a woman, so she knows more than you do anyway about it. And they go, "Oh my gosh." I go, "Listen, there's so many things. There are just so many things to learn about your brain that they don't teach us in school. Even you go to drive, you want to go to learn to drive a car, they teach you when you see a red stop sign, it means you stop your car. Mm-hmm. There's a whole set of mechanisms that go on. You see stop sign, brain registers stop sign, motor movement continues going on, takes foot off gas, accelerator, puts it on brake, all of these things. A stop sign is an anchor, but people don't think about it like that. Okay. And they go, "Well, I ran a stop sign. I went right through a stop sign one time." I said, "I guess you were paying attention to something else and you didn't see the stop sign." Then there's just so many things. So NLP sharpens your brain. It really does. It really sharpens your brain. I don't know another way to explain it other than what I just went over. I mean,
it's how it's basically teaches you how to think better. With it's a meta thinking at the end of the day. That's what I kind of
it sharpens your thinking. That's for sure.
Right. So Kostek asks, what is anchoring and how do you make sure that the anchor that you cast on someone actually works, which is actually what you just been explaining. But if you could maybe tell them a little bit more how,
Sure.
how do you make sure that, how do you check that?
Well, first of all, if we want to be sure the person is I mean, I know people who anchor people and the person is not aware they're being anchored. So I'm not sure how to, I'm not sure I like that so much, but it depends on what they're doing with it. The way to know it's going to work is you have to know a few things, a few different steps. One is you've got to be able to establish the anchor. So before you do that, you've got to, it's a doorbell response, basically, it's like the old Pavlov, the old Pavlov thing, you ring the bell, you feed the dog, you ring the bell, you feed the dog. ring the bell, don't feed the dog. The dog gets pretty angry with you, kind of things. He starts to salivate. He wants to eat. But that's really what anchoring is in a simple way. If I was going to anchor something with someone, first of all, I would elicit the response I want, and I would watch them, because when you elicit a feeling, it's basically anchored to mostly feelings and things. Mostly, you can anchor it to a lot of things, also visuals and auditories too. But so the feeling kind of goes up, and then it peaks, and then it goes back down again. Your feeling doesn't go up and stay like that, not really. So you want to notice that by watching the person. You'll see their face, you'll see their muscle change, you'll see color tone in their face, you'll see maybe their pulse changes, things like that. Now you have the response, so you know what the response looks like when you're watching the other person, or even what they sound like. Then I would elicit the response again. And when I anchor the response, I've got to anchor it as it's increasing, because when you get to the top, then you want to release the anchor, because too many people hold the anchor for too long, and what they're anchoring the down, the downslope. So then when they fire the anchor off again, the person's not going to go like that. They're going to go like that, because they held the anchor for too long. That's number one. Number two is then there's something else that we call future pacing. And so therefore it's not just enough to say, well, okay, let's try this out, fire the anchor off, and they go, wow, that feels great. You've got to set that up so it happens each time it's supposed to happen in the future. Okay. Otherwise, it's not going to happen in the future. That's why I think even when somebody goes goal setting, things like that, if they don't plant that sucker out there in the future in a very specific way, their brain's not going to continue to develop all the behaviors necessary to achieve that goal. If in the present moment, in other words, in the present moment, they said, wow, I like that. That's not enough. They're not finished yet. You've still got to do what we call future pacing. So you got to take that behavior, plant it in the future a few times, more than once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So their brain will continue to see it going on. Some of the words people will use they're magic clues. I don't know if I should use the word magic or not, but to me, they're magic clues. If someone said to me, well, a woman said to me once, and I said, I was working with her, and she wanted to go, I was doing some coaching with her. She wanted to be able to go to New York or something. And my response to her was, I was like, how can she increase her business? So how can you increase your business? She goes, well, if I could go to New York, that'd be great. I go, well, then go. And she said, well, I can't. And I thought, that's interesting. She lived up by the George Washington Bridge. And I said, what do you mean you can't? Why not? You can't go. She goes, she said, because, well, actually, she goes, I'm afraid to drive over the bridge. And when she said that to me, in my mind, I saw going over the bridge. And I said, well, what if you can see yourself? I said to something like to her, I said, well, instead of going over the bridge, what if you went across the bridge? I just changed the word. And she stepped back like this and she said, I can see myself doing that. Think about those words. Most times, if you ask somebody to do something, like make an investment, for example, like, I can't see myself spending that kind of money. That means they're not making the pictures and they don't see themselves doing that. When they can see themselves doing it in their mind, they're more apt to do it. Not a guarantee 100%. Nothing's guaranteed 100%, but it sure increases the odds. So again, it's in the language. It's not in a technique. I didn't use a technique on this woman. I used a set of steps kind of thing. I said, well, with the words? And the other thing that happened when I said that to her, when I said, well, instead of seeing yourself going over the bridge, what if you saw yourself going across the bridge? She sat back in her chair like this. And that told me another thing. That told me that she actually stepped out of the picture, because when people are afraid of something, when they're looking at the picture, they're looking at it through their own eyes, like they're actually in the experience and they're feeling the fear. But as soon as they step out of the picture, the fear goes away. So when she sat back like that, and I said, what if you drove across the bridge? And she sat back, I immediately said to myself, she just stepped out of the image in her mind, but she's manifesting that in what she's doing physically with her body. She went back and said, and she looked up at the picture. And then she could see herself. Then she said, I could see myself doing that. That's a give me, man. I mean, but it was in her language. And then when I changed when I changed it and had her think about it in a different way, then she went, great. I can do that because I can see myself doing it. That's those to me are magic words, but if you're not listening to people, see, the other problem is, and I'm not sure how many people you get to work with where, you're getting in there close with them, and they're not going for it. They're not biting on the line or whatever the case you want to call it. They could be so much talking to themselves, they're not hearing anything you're saying. I mean, that's very, very possible, because a lot of people, they don't listen to respond. They listen. They don't listen to answer your questions. They listen to answer what they think you want to hear, or whatever else they're doing in their head. Especially could be business partners in some cases. I mean, I've worked with a lot of different people. People have worked for me, and I've had to tell them once in a while, whoa, stop. You're talking to yourself. And because you can see by their eyes what they're doing. They go, yeah, I was. I go, stop talking to yourself, because when you're talking to yourself, you can't listen to what I'm saying. And I'm not that important, but you want to have a conversation with me. So stop talking to yourself for a few minutes and listen to what I'm saying. I try this trick with people, okay? Because I like to point it out. I say ABC, okay?
Okay.
ABC. And they go, huh? And I don't repeat it. I go, and they go, oh yeah, sure, ABC is great. Which means they heard me the first time. So what's the huh? They want me to repeat it. I don't know why they want me to repeat it, but I don't repeat it. They heard it the first time, and I demonstrate that to them. I say, you heard me the first time because you just repeated it back, see? But you, in the meantime, you said, huh? Like you wanted me to say it again? I'm not going to say it again. I'm going to wait. I'm going to just look at you. And then you're going to remember what I said. Might be a couple of seconds later than I wanted you to. But you're asking me how because you want me to repeat it. Why? Stop talking to yourself in there, I tell them. You're talking to yourself instead of listening to the other person. They're already trying to fabricate a response, and they haven't even heard everything. It's important. People don't listen enough. They just don't. They don't.
Why do you think it's so? Why are we so in our thoughts? For example, like when I was listening to you, at some point I was making examples, like when you were saying about people who are very like auditory, so they prefer like when you tell them something, and then I immediately, my business partner here in Vegas, Michael, which regards to you, he's gonna be listening for sure. He's like if you were to go in my mind, and then you were seeing exactly what I was thinking about. So I was thinking about this example because he's very auditory, and then I send him emails because I'm pissed off when he's, for example, recording me on Signal. Oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. And he's very auditory. And then I'm pissed because I want to have organization, So sometimes it's great, when I'm on the go. Sure. But sometimes I'm like, no, send an email because we need to be organized. But for him, it's really difficult. I got him to do that. Sure. But he's like so happy when you talk to him, when when you're on the call, when you call him, when you respond like, verbally, that's what he loves. And that's when I was thinking about the example. The other time you were talking to me about like people are not listening, I'm in my mind like going places basically, and then I'm not listening at some point. So I'm like, what's going on? Maybe I'm like, So it's kind of like a multi-level communication as well.
It takes a little practice. Yeah.
Then you mentioned about another example as well. So I associated with that, and that's really important. And one thing that I've learned about NLP is with the whole process that we're going through here is that it's actually in the conversation. It's not like techniques, because a lot of people, after I left the seminar in London, I was like trying to literally do it so like, I'm just gonna do this technique and that. And then that's actually when you do it like a robot. You gotta be very like, okay, let's just have a conversation. At the end of the day, every business deal, everything that I've done, it is a process. You gotta dress somehow, you gotta, get a lead, etc. But at the end of the day, you can use those like techniques that I've learned there and plant those seeds and do it in the conversation that we have as humans, not as robots.
Yep. So your partner, if he's really that auditory, is because he's used to that. That's number one. And he doesn't have what I would refer to as a requisite variety of also doing visual things. And writing, by the way, writing an email and reading an email is more auditory than it is visual. Because when people read to themselves, they're using their internal voice anyway. So, but he'd rather do it like that because he's all excited and he's in the moment and he wants to express that excitement. That's cool. I always ask people, I go, listen, summarize this for me in an email, because that way I can keep track of everything, and there's no guesswork. Well, I said this. No, you didn't say that. That's what you thought you said, all these things. It's practice. It's really, if you're going to focus on someone, we call it, it's in a state of uptime, we call it. In other words, you have your eyes and ears and everything is open, and you're really just sitting there and paying attention and keeping track. You take some of the basic skill things that you've learned, like eye accessing cues or predicates. Are they going to use more visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Okay. And, I used to put them on an index card and make a chart. So I'd watch a talk show, a good talk show, not these bullshit talk shows where the host does all the talking. You can watch a lot of old ones, a lot of the old ones that are really, really good. Johnny Carson was good. There were a few others that were really good. They're on YouTube, where they ask a question and then they let the guest talk, and you track the guest because it's not scripted. You watch like a movie that's scripted. You can still track it, but it's not as much fun as watching a live thing where the person's just talking off the top of their head, and they're using their hand gestures and everything. But you can keep track of what you want to keep track of. So you can make an index card. We used to make index cards. So I'd put your name. If we were going to a business meeting, that's how I first started learning, because I was in business meetings. So I put all the names of business meeting. I put things, little things on the top. I put an eyeball, and I put up a VAK, so visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Okay. And I put up these little things I want to track. And people during the meeting, they'd see me taking these notes on his index cards. It was a big index card, like 6x9. And on a coffee break, come over to go, "What's that?" I go, "Oh, that's my shorthand pad." And they go, "What?" I go, "I'm taking notes." They go, "What? You're not even writing anything down?" I said, "Sure I am. Look at all the little things I'm writing in all these little boxes." I go, "What does that say? What is that? How do you make sense of that?" And I go, "I know all about you now," just to mess with their head a little bit,
You're right.
And, but I would learn more and more as I would track with people, that if I was going to go in and talk to one guy, I wanted to do a training. I was in a company. I was doing a lot of sales training outside the company, but inside the company, the sales department had their own sales trainers. And so they came to a few of my management development programs, and they went, "Hey, John, you ought to go talk to the vice president because, man, you got some good stuff here, man. We could use some of this in our sales trainings." And I went, "Okay." So I go to see the vice president. All right. Good guy. He was Scottish, from Scotland, had an accent, the Scottish accent, and all that stuff. And I go to see him. And he said, "Hey, John, how you doing?" I said, "Good, good, good." I said, "Listen, some of your guys, have been coming to the seminars, some of these other management seminars, and they're saying maybe I should, come and do a couple of things at your sales meetings and stuff, get everybody a little bit involved in what I've been teaching." And very nicely and politely and gently, he said, "Oh, I appreciate that, but we got everything buttoned up, and you're good at what you do with the management program, so we got everything. Thanks so much." Okay. Which meant no thanks. So I thought, I'm not letting go of this guy. So I found out that I saw him at another thing. It might have been another meeting, or he happened to be there. I was there. I forget what it was, but I found out from him, not by asking him directly, that one of his convincers, okay, was when he heard about it, whatever it is, from at least 3 different people that he had confidence in. So I went, "Let me try this out." So I got some of his guys that I know he really liked these guys. I said, "Hey, maybe you want to go tell Bob, but not all at once. You go one day, you wait a week, you go wait another few days, and go tell Bob, 'Hey, you see what Laval's doing? Man, you might want to check some stuff out.' And then just leave it at that. Don't try to talk him into anything." And they did that. And about, I don't know how many, later on, whatever, he calls me up at my office. He goes, "John, you got a minute or two?" I said, "Yeah, sure. What is it, Bob?" He said, "Why don't you come down to my office? I want to talk to you." I went down to his office. He goes, "I hear you doing some pretty good stuff in your other seminars." I thought, son of a bitch. It worked. He said, "Maybe I'll give you, how about I'll give you what, hey, you want an hour or so at our next sales meeting, try some of your stuff, and I want to see what you're doing, how you're doing." I said, "Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for thinking about me." I didn't bother to say anything to him, "You son of a bitch. I asked you once before and you turned me away." Nah, there's no point in doing that, And, but I had to find out what was going to convince this guy, because, he was pretty well set. He had his team. That's fair. That's cool. So, but I got in there. That was the important part. I ended up getting in there anyway, by using his own strategy.
Right.
so many things. I mean, there's just so much to learn with NLP. It's like crazy, man. You know, it's
so you can basically observe, elicit, gather intelligence, and then act based on the information. So
yep, you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at what you can learn from other people. You know.
Absolutely. John, we have another question.
Sure.
From one of our listeners. He's asking, what is chunking specifically? How to learn, how to calibrate, adjust between kind of going up or down with chunking while being a conversationalist.
Okay, so chunking is really about, you got big words, big picture words, and then you got more detailed words. The only problem to keep track of with chunking when someone is not a good communicator is they chunk down or they chunk up too far too fast. Mm-hmm. You got to go in steps. Okay, so let's say, and then there's the middle part. Okay, to be safe, it's always good to start in the middle. When you want to give somebody a set of instructions to do something, you got to. It's better most times. Everything's not a rule. There's no 100%. That's the other problem with NLP. Sometimes you got to test to find out what's going to work. Start with the big picture and work your way down. In other words, if I was going to manage a project, okay, and I was going to have you manage the project and with me, things like that, I'd say, Martian, let me tell you about the project first, okay? We're going to take over the world, or whatever, okay? We're going to start with I'm going to take over the world of finance, all right? And you go, wow, cool. I go, let me tell you what we're going to do first, okay? So first of all, we have to, and I start chunking down a little bit. I mean that's really a big picture. We're going to take over the world of finance. Well, I'm being a little bit silly about it, but the fact is, if we were going to start a project, I'd say, here's the project. Okay. We're going to end up with this result. Okay. And I say, and here's how we're going to do this. And then you start chunking down. So first thing we need about 4 people to get involved with this. And they ought to have these strategies. They ought to be good at this, and they ought to be good at this and good at this and good at that. So I'm starting to chunk down and give you some more information. And then you don't even have to get down too far in detail, but with some people, you do have to get far down in detail. Some people go too far in detail, too fast, and people
especially programmers.
Oh God, programmers are
because I'm in the IT industry. So when you have like meetings with programmers, because sometimes I get business people that are budget, etc. allocation, and then they bring their IT guys.
Yeah.
So the business guy is asking me always, how much is it gonna cost me, and then how long will it take? 2 questions.
Uh-huh.
The programmer guy, the architect, etc. Gosh, he's asking, how are you gonna do it? Do you have? Even though the business guys, I had a meeting here in Las Vegas recently with a client of ours, big client, and then one of his operation guys asking me, "Oh, so show me some other, how many projects like this exactly did you do?" I'm like, "Well, we're doing software, so you can apply software to they are a bakery shop." So I'm like, you can apply software in a bakery shop, and you can, apply software in, for example, educational field, because we're working in that as well.
Yeah, so you're going lateral at that point, because you can chunk laterally. So you're giving them other examples. They said, well, there are other exampple. So again, to convince them, basically, you'd want to start with the big picture. I would not let those other guys speak first. I would first of all, I would not ever say to them, what questions do you have? Because then they'll be all over the place. One guy's going to come, well, what date will this be finished? You go, I haven't even told you what we're going to do yet. So why get into that discussion and have to say that, as opposed to saying, let me map this out for you first, and use your hands to do that. Let me map out the big picture of this thing, the whole scope of this project first, and what's the objective and what's the result you want to get from this. You really want to get blah 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 from this project, whatever that is, and that's the end result you want. So you're already telling them what should be happening towards the end. You say, but let me tell you the steps we really have to go through first, and then we'll open the floor to questions. Most people start by going, well, here's what we're going to do. What questions do you have? Oof, wow, man, that's asking for trouble. Yeah. That's asking for trouble. That's like saying to a little kid, it's not really, I guess it's the kind of thing like, what would you like for Christmas? I used to ask my son, what's one thing you want for Christmas? When he was little, I'd say, what's one thing you'd like for Christmas? He'd pick a big toy. I mean, not a big, like physically big, but expensive. He always did. Right. He was the first one in the house with a Pentium computer. I said, so what's one? We always got him a lot of things. I said, what's the one big? Because they always want something big, something important. What's the one toy? If I could only get you one thing for Christmas, what is it? And he'd say, I want a Pentium computer. And I'd say, oh my God, I got to go talk to Santa about this. And you go, okay, and he'd always also say about that, if I didn't get it, it'd be okay. Because my birthday's coming up after Christmas anyway, kind of
right.
But so I would take the opportunity first to lay out the scope, the overall scope, the big picture. And then you can always cover a few other things in there and say, listen, we're going to go over these items. We're going to then do these items. Then we'll take a look at these items. The other thing you can always do, you can actually lay out in what's a detail and what's not a detail. In other words, if you said to somebody, because at one point in a meeting, you want to get agreement. I mean, that's what most people are going for, right? They're going for agreement. Okay, it is one of the things we try to do when we're doing team building. And I don't do team building in that same way, but because to me, everybody doesn't have to be involved in team building. Everybody wants I'm taking a thing next week for the guy in Colombia, some guy in Colombia. He goes, there's 17 people on the team. I go, how many don't really belong there for the meeting? No, for the meeting. And he said, oh my God, but some people's feelings will be hurt. I go, we don't get paid for not hurting people's feelings.
Exactly.
So assume I'm going to hurt some. So whose feelings don't you want hurt? And maybe they shouldn't be there. People bring other people. Why? Why do they bring other people to the meetings? You don't always need everybody. When I would run meetings, I'll tell you this for your guys. I'm going to tell this other team of 17 people the same thing. There's only two kind of meetings. One is an update meeting. Okay? In other words, you're going to update me where we are on a project, right? The only people that need to be there are the people who are doing the updating. That's number one. Number two, it could be done in an email, number two, okay? But if you all want to get together, so we'd have coffee and donuts. Number three, I bring an egg timer, a little 3-minute egg timer. You get 3 minutes to update everybody. Nobody's asking you any questions. You're just giving us an update. Yeah. If anybody's got questions, then they can see you outside later. I don't care. But this is an update meeting. And we're not going to mix everything up. And somebody goes, wait a minute, I got a question about this other project. We're not talking about this other project. Okay, Marcin's doing an update. He's got 3 minutes. Go, Marcin. And I flip that little egg timer upside down. And at the end of that, when that last little bit of sand drops down, I go, okay, you're done. You go, what? I'm not finished. You go, yeah, you are finished. You had 3 minutes. You just used it. You're going to learn how to update in 3 minutes very fast. Because
you got to prepare. You're time limited. And it's very precise.
And no bullshit. All this fancy crap, blah, 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 blah. Let me show you all the slides. So then the other kind of meeting is decision-making meetings. The only people that need to be involved are the people who are going to be affected by the decision. That's it. Everybody in a company doesn't have to go to a meeting. I want to send some of my people so they get the experience. No. We're not doing that. You want to have a meeting where people can experience, then you do that. You have your own meeting. Okay. I mean, that's what we do. That's how I've done it. And the decision making is a little bit different, but some people go, oh, can I send so-and-so because, we're grooming them to be, no. Go train them to go to meetings first. Okay. I don't need somebody else asking crazy. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. Although when I'm trying to groom him, you know what I tell him? I'm going to give you the best management development program you will have somebody, they're on your staff and they're one of your favorite people and you want them to get used to managing. So if you're on vacation, you could let them manage, let them answer all your emails in your mail.
Amen.
That's it. That's my best management development program. There's a few other things you can always do. Let them answer your emails and your letters. Let them do your job. And I don't mean you're going to sit there and coach them. Oh, no. And you'll see how fast they learn.
Absolutely. So we have a few more questions.
Go ahead.
We're already like 1 hour into it, so I don't want to take too much of your time.
Don't worry about that.
But one of the things that people confuse right now, I see a lot of people say, oh, I've read 700 books on this and that. I've read, so many books, there's a new book for this, new book for that, but not enough people are taking action. And then, so why people confuse reading and learning with actually doing?
Well, I don't know why they confuse it, but I can tell you what, you tell them, I just read about 3 books on flying an airplane, and I'm going to take a crack at it next week. Who wants to jump in a plane with me? I read 3 books. I read 3 books on brain surgery. Let me operate on you. Come on. Doing is very different than reading books. They can't do it. It's just not doable. In the NLP itself is not an intellectual exercise. It's an experiential thing. You have to actually do it. And it's even hard to do it online. I mean, it's very difficult on a Zoom call. Richard does it, and he's got to really be very careful with people because I only see you like right now. I only see you from your shoulders to the top of your head.
Yeah.
If you're wiggling your foot, and that might be important at that moment, I can't see your foot wiggling.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see your hands doing this over there. Maybe a little nervous, but I can't see your hands. So that makes, I know. So that makes it a little different. You know what I mean? There's so many things you can
absolutely.
It's a whole body. It's like, here, I got people, a good example is cooking. Okay. I'm a cook. I cook. Okay. So does my wife. My wife cooks. I like cooking. I go on these line and I belong to some of these recipe groups. Okay. And they go, I read the recipe. I followed the recipe exactly, but it didn't come out as good as my mother's came out. And my first question to them is, did you ever watch your mother cook and really watch your mother cook? My grandmother taught me how to cook. When it says put in a pinch of salt, you know what that is? That's this. No, that means this. That's a pinch of salt. If you want to know if it pinches enough, you taste it. When it says stir the pot, you got to stir the pot and watch it. You can't just follow the rest. I put in this, I put in this, I put in this, I put in this, I put in this. Well, did you put it in the right order? The grandma tell you don't put this in before you put that. Put the garlic first and the onions second, or put the onions in first, the garlic later. Oh, I don't know. Well, it's not a science. It's a science and an art. So is NLP. It's an art and a science. It's not just so technical or robotic. If I was giving you a set of instructions and a technique, and I asked you to do something, and I'm watching you, and you got your eyes closed, so you don't know I'm watching you that closely, and all of a sudden you go, I'm going to go, oh, that didn't work real good, right? I'm going to have an idea. I might say, did that work okay, or does it need some work? And you're going to go, yeah, it needs some work. I'm going to, I thought so. You're going to think I'm a mind reader. You're going to think I'm like a psychic or something. I'm watching your face, So doing is very different. You learn to drive a car. Did you learn to drive a car by reading a book? I know a lot of guys didn't learn how to fuck by reading the book. That's for sure.
Exactly. But you see that pattern that so many people, actually, the younger people now, they read and they want to do podcasts, etc. like we're doing now. But that's not how you do business. That's not. You gotta go out there. You're
missing the art form. That comes from experience.
Yeah.
That comes from experience.
So that's clear. Thank you very much for explaining that. So we've got 2 more questions and then we're done. So
it's okay.
So one other question is about you already mentioned that at some point, but we didn't go kind of more deeper into explaining what's the difference is.
Okay.
Could you explain proactive versus reactive language?
Oh, absolutely.
You talk about it a lot.
Yeah. Well, it goes like this, all right? I'm going to explain it in terms of language first, verbs and everything else. Proactive language, all you do is listen to people. And it's not that they're either proactive or reactive. It's whatever they are at the time, okay? Because they might be proactive in some cases and reactive in other cases, all right? So proactive people, when they're being proactive, it means they really step in and do things. They might size up the situation very fast, and then they do things. Reactive people don't do things so fast. They need more of a push to do things. If I said to you, for example, if you said, oh, John, can you do the podcast with me? And I said, I'll do the podcast. That's pretty proactive. And if I said to you, I'll see what I can do, you'd be wondering if I'm going to do the podcast, right? And you might want to push me a little more. I go, I really appreciate it. I go, I'll let you know. That's still reactive because I didn't commit it to you. In language, let me give you another couple examples first. So the kid works in a restaurant. I use this in the seminars. Kid works in a restaurant and he's going to be reactive. So he walks into the kitchen. He works there in the kitchen and he sees the dishes have to be done. And he sees his friends and he stops and he says, oh, hey, did you see the game last night? The ball game? Man, wasn't that great? That third quarter. And then the boss walks in the kitchen and he says, yeah, I'll see you later on at the coffee break. Okay. And he goes and does the dishes because the boss walking in pushed him a little bit. Even the boss didn't even have to say anything. Proactive person will walk into the kitchen, come in, work, see his friends. He'll keep walking and say, hey, guys, you see that game last night? No, I'll talk to you about it later, man. I got to go get the dishes done. And he'll keep on going. I mean, that's the easiest, basic idea. Mm-hmm. Proactive people, they use more active verbs and more complete sentences. Whereas the person who's being reactive, they use more passive or inactive verbs and less complete sentences. So if I said to one person who's proactive, when are you going to listen, here's your invoice. And they're going to be proactive and say, okay, I'll pay it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I know who's going to pay it. I know when. The other person might say, I'll see that it gets taken care of. I got questions. Who's going to take care of it and when? Other questions too. So it's a matter of what's in their language. So if this guy said, I'll pay it tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to look at my bank, right? If it's not there in my bank, I go, maybe something happened. I'm going to give him an extra day or two, see what happens. It could be the bank, because banks mess up all the time.
Yeah.
The guy who said to me, all right, I'll see that it gets taken care of. I'm going to say, well, who exactly is going to take care of it there? And when will they do this? I'm going to push that guy. And he'll say, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'll see that it's done. I'll go, when? I'm not going to give up so easy, because I have to chase the guy anyway to get paid, Yeah. So that's the big difference between proactive and reactive. Now, I always look at them on a range, because some people can be more proactive than reactive. There's no right or wrong about either one of them. I tell people, listen, I want a policeman to be proactive with certain situations, and I want him to be reactive in certain situations. Okay. If he's chasing a bad guy down the street into a crowd of people, I do not want him to shoot. Okay. Because he could hit other people. Same thing with a fireman. I don't want the fireman to run into the burning building. I want him to stop and size up the situation and ask maybe the other fireman, hey guys, what do you see? What's on the other side of the house? Is the fire coming through? I don't want him to run in there. He could die, So I want him to be somewhat reactive. So there's no right or wrong about it. What fits the situation, but it's always going to be in the language. Proactive, more active verbs and more complete sentence structures, and reactive, more inactive or passive verbs and more incomplete sentence structures.
Absolutely. And then I would also add to that, from my observations, that sometimes I see people in a certain context very proactive, and then they become reactive because they need, as you said, they need a push to make a decision, for example, on something, because they hesitate in some other things. So I'm kind of European. So from what I've learned here doing business in the US, people think that Europeans are crazy here in the US because they fucking want to let's do it now.
Yeah.
And then people are here, okay, let's take it easy. What's the process? That's how I see it. And that's very smart, by the way. I'll give you an example. I'm like, let's fucking do this because maybe I'm young, etc.
Yeah.
So in the business, I had a payment from my lawyer recently, and I had to pay a chunk of money. And I used, instead of doing that reactively, take the time, do it the next day. Nothing's gonna happen. I have time to pay it. I want to do stuff right now, at this moment. And I have a litany of things to do at that day. And so what happened is I used the card that I shouldn't use. And the bank charged me, I think, $300 for one transaction. And that wasn't even a big transaction. So because I used the wrong card. And that taught me to be reactive more when it comes to certain things. Sure. Take your time to, for example, with payments, take the time and look at the procedure. But with, for example, things like, I invited you to the podcast. You could have wait 3 days, wait a week, and then say, maybe I'll do it, maybe, Mm-hmm. But you were like, okay, boom. Yeah, we're doing the podcast.
That's because I like you, though.
Thank you,
I
sir.
like you as one of our students. I really enjoyed you as one of our students. Now I have other people. I say, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Some people I say, talk to my wife. First I said, sure, I'll do it. And then I said, get with Kathleen, pick the dates, because she handles my schedule. So so sometimes I don't right away I had one guy, he asked me to do a podcast, and I said, sure, and I did it. Then he came back and wanted me to do another one with a whole group of other people who I don't like so much. So I didn't answer him for a week. And then when I answered him, I said, it's okay. You have enough people. Thank you so much. Maybe another time.
Yeah, you're very selective as well about who
very selective. I'm very selective.
Podcast with. And then, John, thank you very much for your time. I was going to ask you one last question, but you actually answered.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you. So the Wojtek actually asks, what are the best ways to tell that our business partner is trying to consciously manipulate us?
Tell them to stop.
That's it?
They stop manipulating me. And they'll go, I'm not manipulating you. You go, you're doing it again. I think business partners are, to me, they're like family, you know, but how you give them the feedback Because that's what you're asking. You say, how do I give them the feedback if I think they're manipulating me? First of all, it's tough to say to someone, listen, I think you're manipulating me, because they might say that to me, and I'm going to say, actually, what I'm doing is I'm giving you ideas. So tell me when and how exactly did I manipulate you? If you don't like me giving you ideas, then I'll stop right here and we're done. Pay my bill and we're finished. I'll never talk to you again.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's like being in a family. You know, if you're going to be business partners, you ought to have open discussion. And the risk, how you deliver the feedback is always important. You can't, I got rules about feedback. Some of them go like this. Okay. First of all, you always want to talk about the performance, not the performer. You're not talking about the person, you're talking about the behavior. Okay. In other words, if somebody's yelling with a real loud voice, you go, hey, you know what? You're acting like an idiot. Well, that's not because they don't know what that's supposed to mean. You go, listen, you're raising your voice. Come on, lower your voice down already. All right. It's easier for me to hear you when you lower your voice. You're giving them the behavior to change. Things are important. I don't know how someone would know that someone was manipulating them because manipulation really is a negative feeling. And the word manipulate really only means moving something from point A to point B. So if I'm trying to help you to get an idea in your head and you ask me to do this, then trying to get you to move from point A to point B, and you go, why are you manipulating me? I'm going, because I'm trying to get you to move from point A to point B, which you asked me to do.
Yeah.
And you go, well, I don't feel right about it. Then it's not the right decision for you. Then don't make the decision like that. Let's go talk about something else. We'll do something different. So you really got to be able to identify the behaviors. The other thing is, well, in that last case I gave you, lower your voice, you're giving them the behavior to do. But if you say to someone, you're acting like an idiot, and they go, yeah, you're right. You didn't give them a replacement behavior. And they never said, okay, I won't act like an idiot anymore, because they don't even know what you mean. So it's always by the behavior. So you go, listen, sometimes when we're talking, you're not even listening because you don't even respond. You're like this, up in space, as far as I can tell. I don't even know what you're doing. And then when I ask you what I just say, you say, I don't know, which means you don't know what I'm even talking to you about. I need you to listen. I need you to I might even ask you to repeat what I just said. Don't be insulted if I do that. I'm only doing that because I'm not sure you're hearing me or listening. I know you're hearing me. I do that with my wife. She goes, yesterday I asked you da-da-da. And I go, yeah, I heard you. She goes, yeah, but did you listen? Were you listening? I go, okay. You got me. Because there's a big difference between hearing you and listening to you. So feedback is an interesting thing. And I have a little bit of set of my own little rules, I guess, for feedback. It means if 3 people call me a horse, then I need to get a saddle. I need to change the behavior. But just because someone asked me to change the behavior doesn't mean I'm going to change the behavior just to suit them, because I got a lot of people to deal with. And I hear in a seminar, people will come up to me and go, I don't like your attitude. And I go, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't even know what you're talking about with my attitude. You don't like my accent? I use a lot of proactive language. Yeah. I push hard because I want you to be successful. Now,
exactly.
If that's something you don't like, what are you doing here? What did you come here for? If you came here to be coddled, if you came here for me to spoon feed you and be nice to you and make you feel good and happy and give you a trophy, even though we haven't done anything yet, you're in the wrong seminar and you hired the wrong guy. With the European thing, I got to tell you, it's so funny you mention that, because it's different countries. And I learned this because I traveled Europe enough times, and I know a lot of people in different countries, right? You go to Italy and you're going to meet with a prospective client. You don't bring up the business. You sit, you eat. You talk about the flowers. You talk about the family. How's the family? Oh, look at this beautiful town. Look at the city. Oh, look at the buildings. Look at the art. The customer will bring up the business. Not in Germany. No way.
No.
You go to Germany, you sit down. You sit down, you talk business, you make the business, and then you go eat and have a good time. But a long time ago, I got a contract with a company. I'll even tell you who it was Maersk Sealand, the shipping company.
Okay.
Talking to the vice. Oh, yeah. I did sales training for them for about 5 or 6 years. I'm talking to the vice president of international sales. And he got me through a consultant. And so, but he didn't know me, never met me, didn't know anything. And he called me up and he said, yeah, I heard good things about you. I got one major concern. I said, what's that? He said, well, I got to know that what you're going to teach my salespeople is not the American way of selling. And I said, I mean, if it's a problem, if American way of selling is a problem, I'm an American. I wouldn't know that it's a problem.
Exactly.
So can you, and he goes, yeah, actually I can. You guys are too fast. You want to get right to the bottom line. You want to close the deal just like that. And that is not going to work in Europe. And I said, okay, got it. I said, now listen, I've enjoyed talking to you, but you know what? I got a lot of people want to hire me. So right now, okay, get your date book out if you want me, because if you want to book the seminar, I got to book it right now. Okay. Because I got other people waiting. All right. And he said, okay, I want to book 3 seminars. I said, okay. And after we booked the 3 seminars, I said to him, I thought the American way of selling wasn't going to work with you guys. He called me a son of a bitch. He said, you son of a bitch. He said, how did you do that? I said, not till the first check clears. And he called me an asshole. He said, you're an asshole. I said, yes, but you like it. He said, yeah. I went to do the first seminar. Now, the first seminar was supposed to be 30 or 35 of his top best managers. And he said, listen, we're going to do the first seminar. If they like you, there's going to be 2 more. Okay? I said, okay, fine. After the first seminar, we went to dinner that night after the first one. And he said, I want 35 more. I said, we didn't do the other 2 yet. He said, I know. He said, I don't know what you're doing. He said, but I love this. This is great. You're getting such a response from my people. The problem was, number one, was he changed it around. First of all, I was going to go to Paris and do the French. Then I was going to go to Belgium and do the Belgians. Then I was going to go to Italy and do the Italians. I was going to go to Germany and do the Germans, right? No. Then he decides he's going to bring all the different ones from different countries into the one seminar. Didn't tell me this till the last minute. And then he said to me, he says, oh, by the way, I changed it around. Everybody's going to be coming from different countries, and they don't get along real well. I said, okay. He said, so if you can get them to really work together, I would consider that like a real bonus. I even said to him, I said, how much of a bonus are we talking about? He said, no, not a money bonus. I mean, I would, then you're really good. So I did. I got in, they had the morning, raise the company flag. Here's the 5-year goals, all that crap. And then I thought, I got to get all these people who aren't talking to each other. Okay. And the international business language is English. So they all speak English. So I got to get these guys all to work together now. How am I going to do this? And I'm going to have these guys here for 5 days. Now it's my first day in the afternoon. I'm either going to make it or break it. So I started teasing them all. I said, listen, we're going to be here for the next 5 days. Let's get to know each other a little bit. And looked around the room. I said, where are you from? And they go, Belgium. I go, Belgium? It's part of Germany, right? And they go, no. And I go, part of France? They go, no. Oh, you're one of those little Benelux countries. All this stuff. And I look at go to the Italians, and I look at the Italians. I go, you're from Italy, right? They go, yeah. I go, this was in the 90s. I go, before the euro. I said, when are you guys going to knock some zeros off your money, man? Because 2,500 of something to buy a newspaper is way too much money. Take some zeros off that thing, okay? I said, not only that, what's with that car you have? Fiat. You know what Fiat is? Fiat is an acronym. It means fix it again, Tony. And they'd laugh. And I go, we have that other good car, though, that Testastarossa. One guy goes, it's a Testarossa. I go, oh, no, it's a Testastarossa. You've never driven one. You go drive one, you'll know it's a Testastarossa. And they'd laugh. And I go to the Swiss. I go, where you from? They go, Switzerland. I go, yeah, you're the neutral country, right? They go, yeah. They go to Germany. I go, where are you from? They go, Germany. I go, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Germany. Yeah, I've been to Germany a lot of times. And they go, where? I go, Munich. And they go, well, that's not really Germany. I go, hey, you wanted more real estate? We got you more real estate, okay? Stop your complaining about that. And I go to the Dutch and I go, where are you from? They go, Netherlands. I look at the Germans. I go, hey, when are you going to bring back their bicycles? All this stuff from the old days. And they're all getting annoyed with me, the French. One guy's talking to another friend. I go, hey, Francois, you have something you want to say? And he goes, you Americans, you would think of who you are. I go, yeah? Let me tell you something, Francois. We Americans, we know who we are. You seem to have forgotten something. If it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German today. Isn't that right, Franz? And the German go, yeah, all this stuff. Then I let him take a coffee break, right? What I did was, that's a pretty well-known strategy for some consultants, okay? It's get them all against me.
Against you, yeah.
Right. So I did that. Now they're all out there cahoots and talking about this guy. 5 days, we're not putting up with 5 days of this guy, blah, blah, all this crap. When they came back in, they weren't all sitting in their groups. They were mixed up. So the French guy was sitting with the German, the Swiss guy sitting with the Italian guy. They're all kind of sitting together now, mixed up. And then I told them how crazy and stupid the Americans are. And they laughed. And this guy, he got us good. And then we did the seminar. But that night, this was a crazy criteria, okay? That night, the guy said to me, I want 35 more of these programs. And they said, I don't know what you're doing, but this is great. I love it. I said, I haven't started teaching yet. All they did was get your guys to be on my side, and it took a little work. He went, yeah, but it was great. After the first seminar, he came. First of all, he was there for the whole week, but he stayed in the back. He'd walk out a little bit. He'd come. He wasn't really attending, but he was there the last day. And he stuck around for a long time, and so did most other people. And then as they were leaving, I'm getting my stuff, packing my stuff up because I got to catch a plane. And I'm walking. I say, he says, listen, that was great, man. It was a great seminar. I said, let me ask you a question. You weren't here for the whole seminar. So how do you know it was a great seminar? He said, you got exactly what I wanted. They all stayed and talked to each other. I know they worked together during the seminar, but even after the seminar, they were still talking to each other, making plans. All the different country guys talking to different country people, making plans. He said, that was my criteria to begin with. And I said, oh, cool. So, and every seminar, no matter where I was, he always came in on the last day, all 35 seminars. Actually, He wanted 30 and ended up being 35. He always came in on the last day. He wanted to see if they were all still getting together.
And that was like part of you were doing that as a consultant on your own? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then simultaneously you were doing the NLP, right? Seminars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was doing maybe one seminar a month for them like that, kind of thing.
Okay.
Maybe every few months, going to different countries. One
thing that I didn't ask you, so I promise that's the last one.
It's okay.
It's with tonality, because like, for example, as I'm speaking as Polish, crazy Polak, I have an accent, and then the tonality is different as well. Some people understand me, some people, they don't understand my words. Some people will say, okay, he's Polish, so he can like screw this up.
Yeah, right.
But in business and like in relationships, like you go on a date, you talk to your business partners, you talk to your spouse, Kathleen, etc. Like you want to make someone, have fun or something. You use tonality in order to, like, we do it all the time. Kids do it all the time, and that's something that I also learned in NLP. That's really important. Like how you, obviously the techniques, but actually how you use your voice.
Yes.
If you could mention about, because you're great at that. Like I heard you, I remember in London, like it was so funny when you were like talking about all the stories, but then I loved how you used like your skills in business, because that's what I wanted to do business because I wanted to get more money because I didn't have any. So I loved basically how you throughout the whole kind of on Persuasion Engineering, you were telling stories about chunking, then about like many different things. But you great at tonality. Like you're doing something on the stage and like you go, for example, okay, I was there, and I do, and then you use.
I would make sounds. Sounds are important. We in different seminars we teach different things. So you did the practitioner, right? So next seminar or whatever we teach you how to use your voice in a couple of different ways. One is we would teach you how to, number one is lower your voice down, because you have your voices a little bit up, a little bit nose, a little bit nasal, a little bit, not a lot. So we would teach you how to move it down here into your diaphragm. So you're speaking from here.
Right.
Okay. Because you send out, when you speak, you send a resonance out. Like you're listening to speakers in a stereo, you send out a resonance. People can feel it. They may or may not notice it. Okay. But if you hit them with a good tonality down here, with a good booming kind of a voice, they feel that. And sometimes you can get it to go right through, and it hits them in the back, in the spine. And if it hits them just right in the spine, it goes up to the base of their brain, and it tickles the back of their brain a little bit, and then that fires off different neurochemicals. Okay, so that's one way about tonality. Sometimes we make fun of that tonality too, just so people go, oh my God, I must sound like that, that kind of stuff. The other thing is making sounds. If you want to talk about something that's cool, you'd go, oh, this is really cool. You want it to sound cool. If it's something hot, you go, oh, hey, this is really hot, man. So you want to make it sound hot. You know, there's that whole thing behind all of the words and how you use the word. Smooth, you know. So you want your words and your voice to sound like what is the process you're describing. You know, if I said, oh, I have a picture, I'm going to go, oh, I have a picture. I have a picture of something. And as you're listening to me show you about this, I want you to listen to my voice. And I'm going to point all of those things out with those processes at the same time. That just takes practice. It takes, number one, knowing what to do when, you know, if you go, I was running to the store, you know, you don't go, I was running to the store. You know, you might go, listen, I was walking to the store very slowly, but I really wanted to get there so fast, I started running. You know, that exemplifies basically what is the process in their head that you want them to have, that you're describing. Okay. You know, it's like some people would say things like, oh man, this is going to slap you right in the hand, man. When you see that money coming in and that hits your bank account, you know, things like that. Okay. And you're smiling now, just thinking about it.
Because I know how it works. Like the deals that I've done for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. A lot of the time it's going and meeting the business owner, going there.
Yeah.
Not on the internet, not the Zoom fuck, etc.
Yeah.
Going there when you meet them, but you cannot be like stiff, you know, I'm stiff. Like you gotta like excite them and they see, wow, this guy has so much energy. Like if he's got so much energy, like that's definitely the same happening like with their team, with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And whereas I talk to like guys in IT and they're so boring, like, we're going to ask you this question, you know, and then they want all the details.
That's
and
right.
then people want to be like, get excited and they want to obviously know that you're capable of doing the job, but the energy is so important. And then you gain a level of trust from people.
It's very important. There's more selling by your own excitement than there is when trying anything fancy tricks.
Amen to that.
Yes. I tell people all the time, they go, when people call in because they want to sign up for a seminar, usually they get Kathleen. I don't answer the phone. And I hear her say, okay, so you're interested in the seminar? And I could hear them say, I guess you're going to try all this fancy NLP stuff on me now, right? And she goes, no, I'm not going to do that. That's Mickey Mouse stuff. And then she just starts talking to them. And I go, they're going to sign up. She's got better than 90% close. 90% close, better than 90%. When they call, when she gets them on the phone, they're done. And then I'll be sending
them to Kathleen. I'm like, don't call John, call Kathleen.
And then they'll say, later on they'll say, oh, I really enjoyed talking to your wife. I say, well, that's good. Wait till you meet her. But I have to give you a warning when you meet her. Don't look into her eyes. Okay? And they'll go, what? I go, don't look into her eyes. She'll suck out your soul, and she'll polish it up, and then she'll spit it back out and give it back to you. And they go,
and they get the experience.
Well, yeah, but then when they meet her at the seminar, they come up to me and they go, you weren't kidding. I looked in her eyes. I told you not to do that. What's the matter with you? And they go, wow, she's great. She's better than me. Really. Way better. I tell people that all the time. She's a girl.
You guys been together for like finishing, because that's another great story, because lots of people get divorced, and I mean, my parents got divorced, you know, I went to the orphanage, etc. But you know, like the way you've been with Kathleen and
we've been together. We don't count the years. Is that crazy? People say, because next week, let me see, a couple of weeks. Next week, what's today? The 2nd? So another 11 or 12 days is our anniversary. Let me think now, 83. So we're going to 37 years. We don't even think about it. If you said to her how long you married, she'll say, hold on. And she'll go 37 years. We don't even think about how long we're married, you know? And
you guys are doing a great job. And how old is your son? Because I heard someone the other day that was talking to your son on the podcast, a guy that I rent the flat from. He was saying that, I was listening to John's son podcast.
John Sebastian.
Yeah. How old is your son?
He's going to be He'll be 35 in March.
Okay, so he's older than I am. So I'm 28 today as we're recording. So
yeah.
John, thank you very much for the
happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much for the best birthday gift that I got, and then especially again, I'm the testimony here, and then we're gonna release that. Thank you for your time. But what happened after the the London seminar, I think that's the best. I think I don't know the feeling for you guys, but that's what you're doing. That's kind of people that you're producing, and I'm super grateful for everything, because that knowledge and what I experienced there, I see that literally in everything that I do: relationships, business, teaching, learning.
It's your brain. You take your brain into all these different areas in your life. I tell people this. They go, I want to learn how to use NLP in my job. I go, well, what about your home? How about at home with your spouse? And they go, huh? What? And I go, oh boy. Okay. How about with your
confidence,
kid?
Marketing, anything.
My son, we did not specifically teach him NLP. He would, when he was little, we're talking 4 or 5 years old, he would come to the seminars. He'd sit in the back of the room and play with his toys and draw and color and whatever. And we'd bring him to seminars with Richard, and he'd sit in the back of the room. And he got to be friends with Richard. Even when he was little, he called him Mr. Richard. And then he did well. He did pretty well in school. I mean, he went to school. He was a kid, in school, didn't do some things, all that crap. But he was about 21. And somebody asked him to go to help him, to help that guy negotiate something on his behalf with Coca-Cola. He was 21, and he won. He won the negotiation for the kid. My son, he's a better bullshitter than me. This kid, even when he was in school and he was little, they called him Mr. Mayor. And he had all the teachers wrapped around his finger. He's just real smooth. And he could also be very sharp and very cutting. In other words, if he wants to cut you off, you're cut. You're done. You're cut off. It's not like he just puts up with you. If he's tired of bullshit, he goes, that's it. We're done. Thanks, pal. It was nice talking to you. Click. Everybody I know that knows him loves the guy and likes him. He's that good. He's really smooth. He's good. His wife too. His wife is too. And of course, I don't know if are you on our Facebook?
I am on Facebook. I need to add you as well. But
it's okay. Put it in. I got 5,000, but I got a list of people I want to knock off there anyway, because then you can see my granddaughter.
Oh, you got a granddaughter now?
Yeah, she's 4 months old. You think she was a year?
Oh wow!
Really? No, really.
So that's the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are super proud now.
Yeah, so she's in Florida, but we're going to be moving there this year. So. Oh,
that Florida is great results.
Yeah.
And I need to go there. I have a meeting as well in Miami. So Florida is great. I think it's becoming for IT stuff. That just like finishing off already now. John, thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll finish off after I click stop
right.
recording.
My pleasure.
Appreciate your time, and again, all the best to you and Kathleen.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
by the way, before actually we finish, I wanted to let everybody know who's listening, because people mostly are listening about business and improving their life. Go to Amazon or go to John's website and then look for Persuasion Engineering or Persuasion Engineering book. So the webinar, seminar, or the book. You guys gotta get that. That was one of the first book I was studying.
Yeah. They can go to purenlp.com, or they can go to richardbandler.com and look up whatever stuff too. And the DVDs, we don't sell the DVDs anymore. That's why we do NLP Eternal. All the products are on NLP Eternal. I don't know if you're on. Did you go to NLP Eternal?
I did go there, and then I see that this is a new platform you guys released.
Yes.
Is it because of COVID, or was it prior to?
No. We started over a year ago. We started more than a year ago. Yeah.
So it's a great timing, because COVID, like the seminars got shut down.
Yeah. So now we only have certain products. We'll have them at the seminars, but otherwise everything that was on the NLP store is online for not download, but streaming.
So you can subscribe and stream like you do with Netflix. So we're gonna link the NLP Eternal. Okay. We're gonna link the Persuasion Engineering book, and obviously when once you guys get going, I wanna come back and sharpen my skills.
We'll be in Orlando.
Company is awesome. I need to do it in the US. Maybe I'll get my business partner as well, so he gets convinced. He's gonna be watching that podcast.
No, maybe. Tell him to come to the seminar and prove us wrong.
Exactly. That's what I need to tell you. He's the auditory guy. So,
okay.
John, thank you very much.
My pleasure, really, my pleasure, Marcin, my pleasure.
Życie bez gruchy. Jedyny życiowy podcast w Polsce stworzony dla geeków.